And now we join the ITV News team for all the very latest headlines and to welcome in 2022.
On a day of record COVID cases, revellers gamble it's still the night to party. Many official celebrations are cancelled, but tonight clubs, pubs and bars in England are still counting down to the new year. A more cautious celebration in Scotland as restrictions put Hogmanay on hold. The New Year's honours include a knighthood for Tony Blair, and Joanna Lumley is made a Dame.
Honestly overwhelmed, completely knocked sideways. I was just astonished, to tell you the truth, and touched beyond belief.
Fireworks around the world as the new year arrives. And as it rapidly approaches here, we'll count down to Big Ben's chimes at midnight. Good evening. The countdown to the new year is in its final minutes, but even now it's impossible to say how long a shadow the coronavirus will cast on 2022. The old year ends with grim statistics. More than 2 million of us had the virus as recently as Christmas. More will have it tonight, and many won't know it, which is why Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland have imposed restrictions on tonight's partying. And in England, revellers were urged to take a lateral flow test before going out, if they could find one. It's all against the backdrop of an increasingly stretched NHS, with hospital admissions and staff absences continuing to rise. Our political correspondent, Carl Dinnan, has the latest.
As New Year celebrations got going in London, infection rates here are the highest in the country and across England are higher than at any other point during the pandemic. More than a dozen hospitals have now closed their doors to visitors, but there's not yet been a corresponding surge in seriously ill patients, and the government's holding off on new restrictions for England.
Since we introduced Plan B, there hasn't been a need for any further restrictions. I think people have also responded very sensibly by being cautious, by accessing testing and by doing other sensible things to help to keep the virus at bay. And we will continue to monitor the data and keep it under review.
The Office for National Statistics estimates 2.3 million people in the UK had the virus in the week ending 23rd of December, up nearly 1 million on the previous week. The highest infection levels were in London, where it's thought 1 in every 15 people had COVID. And the NHS in England suffered a 30% increase in staff absences to more than 24,000 by Boxing Day. And that's currently a bigger concern for trusts than patient numbers.
They're most worried about the level of staff absences that they are seeing. That is putting real pressure on particular trusts. But clearly, we're still waiting to see if there are going to be large numbers of older people who are seriously ill with this variant. And that's why we're preparing for the worst, but hoping for the best.
But many people, including NHS staff, are struggling to get lateral flow tests, despite millions that were supposed to come to pharmacies this week.
Nothing since Wednesday, so we're still waiting. Hopefully we'll get delivery today, but still no guarantee.
And you've been ordering them every day since?
Yeah, so we order them morning and evening, still nothing.
And how many people a day do you think you're getting asking for lateral flow?
100. Honestly, the amount of people that come in and call, it's hundreds of people looking to get them.
Nearly 2/3 of UK adults have now had a booster jab, and some in the health service are daring to hope that this wave might not prove as deadly as the last. It won't be long before we find out. Carl Dinnan, ITV News.
Murder investigations are underway after 2 boys were fatally stabbed in separate attacks in London. A 15-year-old died in Croydon, South London yesterday evening. Another 15-year-old has been arrested. At around the same time, a 16-year-old was killed in West London. The deaths make this the capital's worst year for teen killings on record. The killers of 6-year-old Arthur Labinjo Hughes have had their jail sentences referred to the Court of Appeal for being too lenient. The boy's stepmother, Emma Tustin, was sentenced to 29 years for his torture and murder. His father, Thomas Hughes, got 21 years for manslaughter. And the American comic actress Betty White has died less than a month short of her 100th birthday. Best known for her role in the sitcom The Golden Girls, she worked in film and TV for 9 decades, starting when she was just 8. The US state of Colorado is battling what officials have called the worst wildfires in its history. 100-mile-an-hour winds are driving the flames across land that's been suffering from severe drought, destroying hundreds of homes and forcing tens of thousands to evacuate. Our correspondent Robert Moore reports from the United States.
For residents in northern Colorado, this was an end-of-year nightmare. A wildfire that moved with frightening speed. Only in a few places did firefighters even try and battle the blaze. And such efforts seemed forlorn given the intensity of the fire. By day, the reason for the rapid spread became clear.
I would imagine this is what a nuclear attack would look like. It's just black and windy and there's embers blowing and, I mean, coming over your car, and it was just like, where am I?
The wind was howling, gusting at times at over 100 miles per hour, and over a parched landscape as well.
Now, leave your stuff, go!
The speed meant that evacuations became a life and death run for it, rather than anything more measured. For those leaving shops and stepping out into this apocalyptic-looking scene, you can see why.
Go, 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 go,
The severe drought in Colorado has meant this landscape was deeply vulnerable to a wildfire, even at this time of year. And there is now a state of emergency in place, as the governor warns residents they are facing an enemy he simply called a force of nature. Robert Moore, ITV News, Washington.
Back here as we wait the final few minutes for the clock to reach midnight, we can reveal tonight's New Year's honours list. And it's no surprise that some of those who've helped to guide us through the pandemic have been honoured. Dr Emily Lawson, who's run England's vaccine programme, is made a Dame. England's Chief Medical Officer, Chris Whitty, is knighted, and Sir Patrick Vallance joins the prestigious Order of the Bath. The Queen's personal appointments to the Order of the Garter include the former Prime Minister, now Sir Tony Blair, Baroness Valerie Amos, the first black member of the Order, and Camilla, Duchess of Cornwall. Married Olympians Laura and Jason Kenny receive a damehood and a knighthood for services to cycling, and tennis sensation Emma Raducanu receives an MBE. James Bond actor Daniel Craig joins the Order of St Michael and St George, the same honour the fictional 007 holds, and veteran actors Vanessa Redgrave and Joanna Lumley are made dames. Dame Joanna told our Juliette Bremner the honour has left her astonished and thrilled.
Light, oh, light, light.
Chain-smoking, binge-drinking, foul-mouthed Patsy. Joanna Lumley's bolly-loving character in Absolutely Fabulous made her a national icon. After today's honour, she'll be embracing a very different role.
So it's Dame Joanna. How does that feel?
Honestly overwhelmed, completely knocked sideways. I think a lot of it is that one's still here. I'm old, I'm 75 and I'm still here, and I've been working for 50 years in the business. And so maybe they look around and go, look, she's still here, she's still doing stuff.
A small part opposite George Lazenby's Bond as one of the villain Blofeld's Angels of Death was an early acting break for the former model.
Seems that the golden age of chivalry is quite dead.
Not quite.
By the late 70s, she had a leading role in the New Avengers. Purdy's hairstyle copied by women around the country. A taste of the fame that would come with AbFab.
Patsy will always be your iconic figure.
I'm so pleased, darling.
How like her are you?
Not remotely, which is why she's such fun to do. You know, you hate playing yourself. I mean, the parts you love to do are the things that aren't you. That's the whole point of acting, is jumping into somebody else's skin or making somebody else up. She's got the morals of an alley cat, and I like to think that I'm almost diametrically opposed to her in my primness and my properness. And I drink, but not a lot. I smoke, but not a lot. But Patsy is extreme in everything she does, and I think people quite like that.
Increasingly known as an activist, winning the right for Gurkha soldiers recruited from Nepal to settle in Britain after their retirement, Joanna hopes the new title might help future campaigns.
I'm hugely impressed by it. When you say people like Dame Judi Dench, Dame Maggie Smith, Dame Eileen Atkins, you know, for God's sake, you go, God, these are fabulous people. So maybe that by being Dame Joanna, that will help in some way.
She loves her latest job exploring exotic corners of the world, but promises Dame Joanna will never be far away from laughter and fun. Juliet Bremner, ITV News.
The Met Office says today was the warmest New Year's Eve on record, with the temperature reaching 15.8 degrees in at least 2 places. Meanwhile, dozens of world cities have already welcomed the new year. People gathered in the Puerto del Sol Square in Madrid to witness the celebrations there. Athens put on a traditional fireworks display over the Acropolis alongside a stage show. In Dubai, the Burj Khalifa, the tallest building in the world, was lit up with a swirling light show and fireworks. And Berlin celebrated the start of 22 with a display over the Brandenburg Gate. We are just seconds away now from the end of 2021, a year that started under the cloud of the pandemic and with a few bright spots continued in very much that vein. So there won't be many of us who aren't ready to bid it a resounding goodbye. Who knows what the next year will have in store, but let's hope it is a better one. Well, there it is. 2022 is here as Big Ben rings out across a quieter than usual London. Martha is along the Thames, where normally there'd be many thousands celebrating and enjoying fireworks. What is it like there tonight, Martha?
Well, obviously London's official public fireworks display was cancelled way back in October, but we still are seeing a spectacular display of fireworks and lights tonight along the Thames to welcome in the new year. The plans for the 12-minute show were kept secret until the last minute, mainly to try and discourage people from coming along to view the fireworks display. Normally you get 100,000 people along the banks of the Thames. Tonight, as you can probably hear, there are still some people along to celebrate. And although most people have been encouraged to just stay at home and watch this on TV, told to have a sensible new year and to enjoy it in small groups. They are also in pubs and hospitality around the capital.
And Martha, people were urged to stay away, but have you spoken to people who've come from long distances?
It's certainly quite lively here. You know, there's not the quiet streets that are being seen in other parts of the country. People are still determined to enjoy their new year. And I think, you know, this is a slightly subdued celebration compared to what London has put on in previous years. But it is probably appropriate, given that the year we've just had, and probably reflects the mood as we go into 2022. Really a feeling of sort of cautious optimism, trying to celebrate and be hopeful about the year ahead, but acknowledging that really it has been a difficult year and celebrations are not as they would be.
Thank you, Martha, and the Shard looking pretty beautiful there. That is it from us. All that's left to do is wish you all a very happy and healthy new year. Good night.